A key characteristic of GMAT's multi-source reasoning questions is that they feature a large volume of information. To work through that information efficiently, you need to customize and structure your approach to each question. In this video, I will demonstrate several examples of how I do such structuring. I will also get into describing how I am creating practice sets for the data sufficiency question type. This is day 20 of my GMAT Prep. Today I will once again get into practicing more MSR questions, and then I also hope to practice some data sufficiency questions. If you have been following me along, you know that in my last video I laid out an early version of the process that I want to follow when solving MSR questions. Today I plan to put it to the test and identify ways in which I can improve it. My overarching goal for the study session today is to continue improving my accuracy and consistency on MSR questions, and then doing the same for data sufficiency questions as well. So without further delay, let's get into it. Alright, so that was about 60 minutes in total. I spent 45 minutes attempting 10 MSR questions and then 15 minutes on performance analysis. Of the 10 questions I attempted, I answered 9 correctly and 1 incorrectly. When I re-attempted the question that I had answered incorrectly, I realized the mistake I had made on the first go and was able to answer the question right on the second attempt. Overall, since I was able to get to the right answers on all the 10 questions without looking at the solutions, I then went ahead and actually read through the solutions to each of the questions in the online question bank. This is consistent with the practice that I have been doing on all of my previous practice sets, including the ones on the quant section. Let me share a few quick learnings. The question that I answered incorrectly was actually the first question of the practice set. The question consisted of 3 statements with yes and no against each, so technically it consisted of 3 sub-questions. I had answered only one of those 3 sub-questions incorrectly on the first attempt. This goes back to the nature of the data insights section. As I had discovered a couple of days back, on the data insights section, you need to answer all sub-questions of a question correctly in order to get any credit for that question. If you answer even one sub-question incorrectly, all the time and effort that you have spent on that question goes down the drain. As you can see, that can lead to unfortunate outcomes such as this. That said, my learning from this particular sub-question is to structure my responses a little bit better. The way this question was framed, it required you to judge if each statement was in agreement with the position of one party and had also been countered by the other party. When solving this for the first time, as you can see in my notes here, I actually did all of that logic in my head, and to be fair, I was able to get the first sub-question and the second sub-question right. However, when I did this question for the second time, I realized that there was a much better way to structure it. Because I needed to see this question from the perspective of two parties, I could literally have 2 columns indicating the relationship of each statement to one party at a time. That is just a much neater way to organize the solution, and it will even help you double check things if you need to. This is also telling me that the principle of write things down might be something that can come handy even on the data insight section of the GMAT. Moving on the third MSR question, I once again had the experience of running out of ink in the middle of action. So if you notice the top of this page, the line I was trying to draw kept getting fainter. I had to deal with this a couple of times throughout the practice set, and it is a minor irritant that I would like to spend some time figuring out how to deal with. I will take this as an action item to research this outside of my GMAT study sessions. Basically, I'm going to look up how to deal with dry arrays and wet arrays markers when you run into something like this. On the same MSR question set, I also had a different learning on the next question. This has to do with how I organize my arithmetic. As you can see here, the answer to this question came down to evaluating a particular inequality. I wrote the inequality down as x less than 3 by 4y. Going from there, I used the same format to actually test a bunch of different numbers. However, when I was going through the solution in the online question bank, all it did was just rewrite the inequality as x by y is less than 3 by 4. This is down to personal preference, but I think writing it in the manner that the online question bank recommends can actually be faster. In my case, it might have saved me a few seconds because I would not have to write down 3 by 4 so many times, as you can see on the top right of this page. Lastly, I want to talk about question 8, which was also related to the same MSR question set that we have been talking about. This question made use of the word gratuity. I was a little uncertain about what this term actually meant. If this was the exam, I would simply assume that it actually means tip and then just proceed with my calculations. However, because this was the practice set, I quickly did a Google search to look for the meaning of this word, and turns out it is actually synonymous to what we know as a tip. I will just make it a point to remember this word so that the next time I encounter it, I am more confident in my approach. Outside of all those comments, I think the process that I had laid out the other day is working well for me, and I will continue to tweak it and improve it going forward. Now it is time for me to get into my first data sufficiency practice set. Before I get into it, one quick detail. You know from my last few videos that I prefer to use the physical version of the GMAT official guide instead of the online question bank for my practice sessions. The reason is just that the physical version of the official guide gives me more control over the mix of difficulty levels of questions that I solve on any given practice set. We also know that the data sufficiency question type is the only question type from the data insight section that can also be found in the physical official guide. Since my preparation at the moment is by question type, I plan to use the physical official guide to create practice sets for data sufficiency questions. I did spend a couple of minutes doing some quick prep for that, so let me share with you what my plans are. The physical version of the GMAT official guide consists of about 94 data sufficiency questions. I aim to make every practice set about 20 questions, so just doing some quick math there, that that will allow me to make a total of 4 to 5 sets. So the way I will make practice sets is on the first day, which is today, I'll start with question 1 and then go on to solve every fourth question. So 1, 5, 9 and so on. Tomorrow I'll start with question 2, go to 6, 10 and so on. The intention here is to make use of the fact that the physical official guide orders question by the level of difficulty. So by creating practice sets this way, I get to attempt easy, medium and hard questions on every practice set. With that said, let's jump in. Alright, so this is about 65 minutes later. I took about 58 minutes to attempt 26 data sufficiency questions. Of those, I answered 22 correctly and 4 incorrectly. The question numbers I was attempting were 229, 233 and so on up to 329 from the GMAT official guide 2023-24. The 4 questions that I answered incorrectly were 249, 281, 321 and 325 in case you're interested in having a look at them. I retried the first 3 questions and was able to get them right on the second attempt. High level, the biggest thing I was missing when answering these questions the first time around was just intellectual persistence. At least a part of it stems from the fact that I'm beginning to feel tired and even a little bit sleepy at this point. So in the interest of efficiency, I will actually reattempt the 4th question, which is question number 325 tomorrow. This is also going to be one of those days where I'm going to have to push out performance analysis of this practice set to the next day. And that's simply because in my current state of mind, it is not efficient for me to spend more time on this right now. Slightly abrupt, I know, but that will have to be it for today. Remember to hit like, subscribe and bell, and wish me good night and sweet GMAT dreams in the comments if you feel like doing so. You can also click on the Ask Me Anything link in the video description if you want to ask me any questions. And as always, you will find links to some free resources in the video description as well. That's all for now. I will see you in the next video.